Credit where credit's due. Conspiracy theorists certainly have the uncanny ability to take the mundane and weave it into a grand tale full of surreal twists and turns. Sure, some may take the fun a little too far and start conjuring connections out of thin air that have no logical grounding in reality, but sometimes, somehow, there is just enough doubt or absence of information that actual, credible ideas start to take shape. Don't let anyone ever tell you the Earth isn't flat, people. It's those very same fan-fueled suspicions that have been added to by others over the years in Chinese whispers that have given birth to the best type of crazy rambling you'll find me enacting out in this list, and probably every other one I do also. So come closer, ye who love a good government cover-up. If you've ever found yourself wondering if all those shooters have moulded you into a hardened soldier, you're not the only one. Far from it, actually. I am the secret lizard politician, Ash from WhatCulture Gaming, and these are 9 crazy video game conspiracy theories people actually believe. 9. EA rigged the Super Bowl to promote Madden 15. This one is, pretty staggering. Back in 2015, EA released a promotional trailer for Super Bowl 49, using its engine for Madden 15 to simulate a final score prediction between that year's contenders, the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. EA pegged the result as being 28-24 in the Patriots' favour, a final tally that, by the grace of some cosmic force, turned out to be the exact result of the real match a few weeks later. And as if that wasn't already the literal definition of a coincidence, EA even correctly predicted that the Patriots would come back from a 24-14 deficit to be crowned the champions of the 2014 season. Like clockwork, theories immediately started to emerge that EA had rigged the results of the competition in order to promote Madden 15. Because what other explanation could there be? It does sound feasible-ish, until you take into account that EA, despite being a successful business, would have had to bribe an awful lot of officials to throw a Super Bowl match. Far more than what it would have shelled out as part of a standard advertising budget for a video game. Or so you'd think, anyway. 8. Mario is a communist. That's right, arguably the world's most famous video game character of all time isn't just your average fungus-popping plumber who rescues princesses for a living, but one that's a communist sympathizer trying to overthrow the rich elite of the Mushroom Kingdom. In fact, the entire series from inception to present day is actually one big metaphor for the rise of the Soviet Union. From the Red Star flags that Mario erects, upon wresting control of each castle back from Bowser, to the King of Koopas himself, every aspect of Nintendo's mascot has been not so subtly tailored to retell the historic revolution in a fictional setting. But even forgetting the allusions to Bowser being the representation of Tsar Nicholas II and Mario's nemesis Wario being the direct representation of a greedy capitalist society, what really hammers home the concept is, well, Mario's hammer, or as it's otherwise known, one part of the USSR's iconic logo. That's not even mentioning Mario's obvious similarity in appearance to one Joseph Stalin. Whilst it all sounds quite logical, I can't imagine Miyamoto got into games design in order to push a hidden communist agenda. But who knows? 7. The Bureau XCOM Declassified is part of a real-life alien conspiracy. Yes, people will quite literally believe anything, and by people, I mean us. As handily explained by this particular news story 3 years ago, rumours started floating around prior to XCOM Declassified's release that 2K's rather middling first-person shooter was actually a piece of propaganda secretly being funded by the various governments of the world. The reason being to throw the public off the scent of what was really going on in the field of extraterrestrial study. Only serving to ratify the crackpot theory even further was the revelation that 2K had hired none other than Nick Pope to do the PR work for the game, the former head of the British Ministry of Defence's by then defunct UFO division. Pope's involvement was just the tip of the iceberg, however. Once theorists had caught wind of the fact that the US had declassified various documents pertaining to Area 51 within a week of Declassified's release. That was it. The proof was there for all to see. 6. Berserk caused the deaths of 2 people. With the existence of esports tournaments back in the 80s being the stuff of far-flung dreams, the only real option players had in regards to competing against their peers was by way of achieving an unbeatable high score that nobody could ever hope to surpass. Pac-Man and Donkey Kong may be the first famous examples of the craze, but they weren't the only ones. Enter Berserk, a multi-directional shooter that became a mainstay of arcades until it was linked to the deaths of two unfortunate high scorers. In 1981, Jeff Daly entered Berserk's coveted top 10 list with a high score of 16,660 points. Just moments later, the 19-year-old succumbed to a heart attack and passed away. The following year, Peter Bukowski entered an arcade in Illinois and managed to break Berserk's top 10 list twice in less than 20 minutes, only to collapse shortly after of, you guessed it, a heart attack. As Daly's score contained the supposed number of the beast, rumours started to fly that Berserk was cursed by the devil himself. Anyone who recorded a score containing the numbers 666 would suffer a terrible fate. The reality was a freak coincidence, but still, Bukowski's scores were never recorded. 5. The Haunting of Majora's Mask. Thanks to the particularly imaginative mind of one creepypasta user, a conspiracy involving a haunted Nintendo 64 cartridge blew up almost overnight, from a fun work of fiction to an internet-wide warning against buying second-hand games. Bored of his current library of Nintendo 64 games, Alex Hall decided to attend a garage sale in 2010 with the hopes of scoring some cheap second-hand games to play. After some extended scavenging, he came across a battered copy of Majora's Mask that still worked. Booting the defaced cartridge up, Hall discovered that a save file, presumably from a previous owner called Ben, already existed on the chunk of plastic. As anyone would, he decided to investigate the save file to monitor its progress, but what he found was a jumbled mess of a game that was plagued by distorted audio and strange visual glitches. Ultimately deciding to delete the save file, Hall's attempts at doing so resulted in the opposite. Not only did the Ben file remain, but a new one, Drowned, had appeared below it. Creepy? Absolutely. True? 4. The Hussein regime used PS2s to make WMDs. If you thought the probable cause issued by the UK and North America to justify their invasion of Iraq wasn't flimsy enough, you obviously never heard about this crackpot theory. According to a now removed report published by WorldNet Daily back in 2000, the deposed and deceased dictator imported close to 4,000 PlayStation 2 consoles during his reign in order to use its components to construct some of those elusive weapons of mass destruction. The potential threat to the west of Hussein owning such heavy-duty weaponry is what sparked the 2003 invasion of Iraq, but I'm hopeful that this particular conspiracy wasn't what initiated the conflict. According to the report, the combined might of bundled PS2 units could calculate ballistic data and generate up to 75 million polygons. Great for 3D modelling and military applications, but not much else. Sounds perfectly legit, right? 3. Pokemon Red and Blue spurred a spate of child suicides. Music is a powerful art form, perhaps even the most influential since the dawn of mankind. Just the simple act of treating one's ears to different compositions can practically evoke every emotion under the sun, including, according to this particular conspiracy, the power to incite children to commit suicide. As the story goes, the original Japanese versions of Pokemon Red and Blue featured a slightly different rendition of the creepy Lavender Town music, one which was borderline ear-splitting due to the harsh, tinny sounds it emitted. As a result, according to the creepypasta at least, a spate of child suicides occurred after listening, either by hanging or leaping to their death from great heights. Whilst it's true that the original Lavender Town tune deviates from the one we got here in the West, everything else is a bunch of nonsense. In reality, Game Freak and Nintendo simply opted to rejig the track due to it being uncomfortable hearing for small children. 2. Animal Crossing is a child abduction simulator. Have you ever wondered why there's not so much as a single adult to be seen in Animal Crossing's seemingly idyllic world? In fact, outside of the player character being a human child, the only other intelligent life populating the remote forests of Nintendo's series is a bunch of eerily friendly anthropomorphic animals. The reason? Why, Animal Crossing's whimsical universe is one big conspiracy revolving around child abduction, of course. As laid bare by this scarily convincing theory, the first face you lay eyes upon at the beginning of each game is that of Cap'n, a stout turtle that is in the process of ferrying you to your new home. Read, prison. Sounds innocent enough until you realise that Cap'n is actually based on the Kappa of Japanese folklore, an imp that's traditionally known for kidnapping little kids. and what awaits you at your destination. A local shop owner that immediately forces you into slave labor in order to pay off a new house. Think of Tom Nook as the mastermind of this dastardly and outlandish scheme. He's your new parent, but don't expect any affection for free. Get to work. 1. All FPS games are government-sponsored killing simulators. Unlike the previous entry, this one is actually grounded in reality, sort of. Yes, the US government does dabble in video games from time to time, but not as part of some shady scheme to brainwash the population. It's not secretive about it either. America's Army is a first-person shooter directly funded, developed and published by the United States Army and serves as a recruiting tool, for example. Unsurprisingly, some critics have labelled the practice as a form of propaganda, a discussion that holds some merit. But that's largely irrelevant here. Because of the above reality, some claim that by extension, all first-person shooters serve only to warp the minds of those that play them, subliminally training players to become efficient killing machines should the day ever come that the government needs an entirely militarized population for some reason. The reality, however disturbing it may sound as I say it, is that shooting fake people with fake guns is entertaining due to the power it bestows on the player. Competing against others in such a scenario, where nobody can get hurt and it is not real, is simply too enticing to pass up. Now, if you'll excuse me, all this talk of guns and brainwashing has inspired me to serve my country on the front lines. Ivan Etniage, everyone. Goodbye.